To further debate, see the member from Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm going to share my time with the good member from Ottawa West Nepean. I just want to start by just walking through what this budget does and doesn't do for housing, for renters, and for the people who have been waiting years for a government that will act on housing. So I just want to start with the most basic question, and that is, are we building enough homes? And according to CMHC, we most certainly are not. We built a third lower than just 3 years ago, and this budget projects actually that it'll get worse before it gets better, with only 64,800 starts this year. That is exactly 37% of what's needed. And it really should embarrass every member of the government benches, because this is a made in Ontario problem. Other provinces are building. They're building in Nova Scotia. They're building the prairie provinces, who have a combined population of just 5 million people. So roughly, less than here, and building nearly as many homes as we are. Quebec is building. So I just want to talk about what some of the government's headlines have been for their housing response. So I want to get back to the HST rebate, and I'm going to say this slowly so that it's understandable. I agree with the HST rebate. It is great. Anybody who buys a home in the next year between April 1st and March 31st, 2027, will get a full HST rebate, the full 13%. That is good for anyone buying a home. It will lower the cost. We can all agree that that's a good thing. But it is a one-year holiday, and the purpose of it was to spur new construction. Now, sure, you can go out and get a mortgage in that time, but we are not really going to spur new construction with a one-year rebate holiday. It'll be over before most buyers could, start the construction on a new home. So the purpose of the rebate, if it stays at 1 year, which I'm hearing it's going to, is to help developers move existing inventory, unsold inventory. So people will get a lower price for their home. They'll be able to buy a home for a lower price, but these are homes that are already built. They're sitting on the market, and they're priced well above what buyers can already afford. It is, if you keep it at 1 year, it is a tax-funded discount on developer inventory. So it's not a housing supply solution. Won't likely get you a single new home. And then we couple that with the $300 million that the government is throwing at high art capital. And I don't think that that's gotten enough attention. And that is to convert 2,200 unsold condominium units into long-term rental housing. It is a bailout for investors and developers with public money. It is actually going to be used to put a floor on the price of housing so it doesn't fall too far. Like, what do we want? We don't want it to go down. We don't want to spur new construction. Even BMO's senior economist was very direct that the $300 million deal with High Art Capital to convert these condos into long-term rentals is, in the economist's words, a bailout. Bailout. Public dollars going to developers who bought at the peak of a bubble and now can't sell their inventory. So, HST, make it last. High Art Capital, we know who runs High Art Capital. We'll deal with that later. So who is actually left out here? The Advocacy Centre for Tenants Ontario said it directly. Without rent controls in place, the new housing that this rebate, the High Art Capital rebate, is meant to move is at risk of being purchased by financialized landlords who engage in rent gouging and bad faith evictions. So that's who we're throwing $300 million at. This budget has nothing for renters. It has no rent control, no vacancy control, no new funding for affordable or supportive housing, and in fact, as I'll come to in a moment, it has even less than that. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is actually cutting their budget by $344 million. $344 million less during a housing crisis and a homelessness emergency. And buried in the budget is almost as a footnote is that the Social Housing Agreement Program, which managed legacy federal, provincial mortgage agreements with social housing providers, has been eliminated. So we're going to have to wait for estimates to know exactly which programs are going to be cut. But it's clear, whatever small investments this government has announced with one hand, it is clawing back from those who are at high risk of homelessness with the other. Now for DCs, again, good news. We learned this morning that the housing minister is serious about development charges years after that your own housing task force suggested that they should be eliminated. Although, again, while it's welcome investment, it's to provide a temporary 3-year funding to only qualifying municipalities. So municipalities have to waive their DCs, they have to change their DC bylaw, and only then will the province and federal government step in for 3 years. If these are great ideas and they're going to spur construction of new homes and reduce the cost of homes, why is it for a limited time? It's not a substitute for a good, sustainable partnership between the province and municipalities. Let's think about why DCs are high in the first place. They're high because when you build and sprawl beyond existing infrastructure, like you wanted to do in the Greenbelt, that costs significantly more for municipalities and their taxpayers than growth that is directed to already built-up areas with existing roads, with water, with the bridges you need, pipes that carry all of that water and wastewater. So who benefits in this scenario? Again, unless you're going to direct that growth into we already have existing infrastructure, this 3-year DC holiday is again going to benefit developers who hold less expensive land and make a windfall after rezoning. And let's not forget that municipalities don't have the funding they need because of years of downloading onto the property tax base that municipalities today are starved for cash. So sure, they can qualify, sure they can change their DC bylaws, and then you're going to walk away in 3 years and you're going to leave municipalities cash-strapped. And you're doing nothing. Again, your own housing task force said to bring down the cost of housing, to build more housing, you have to allow for that gentle density, that missing middle, that infill in already existing areas. But you won't do it. You will not go up against NIMBYism. You just will not. So the 3-year DC, rebate, sure, but it is not at the end of 3 years going to do it. When cities are looking for financing, it will not be there for them. So I don't want to spend the last 50 seconds I have talking about just what's wrong. I want to talk about what you really should be doing. You need to invest in non-market housing on public land. You need a market system, but you need non-market housing to keep housing affordable. The private market alone will never build all the homes we need. Not at the prices that people can afford and not when the economics of home building are broken. You need to unlock federal dollars. You need to commit $62 million in annual operating funding that AMO's called for so that you unlock $1 billion in capital funding. So there are solutions. They're there for you. I've got lots more to say at another time, but for now, I hope that you were listening and that you will extend those rebates.
Thank you.